6. All right. All right. Thank you, everybody. This is Bruce Jones, and this is the Parks and Recs Committee for the fiscal budget 2022. And roll call, we'll have, I'm here, Representative Bailey.
Yep.
Is here. Lynn Crockett Hubbard is not. Kristen Powers, no. Ellie Stephen, no. Edward Chacombe.
Present.
Present, thank you. All right. And we will be doing 1, 2, 3 areas and then 2 CPIs. So Representative Bailey, can you move account 1064?
Yes. I move 1,592,779.
Hold on, let me get the right one. 1064. Is that not 1,775,000? 500 and...
Wait a minute. I'm looking at something old. Hold on. Wait, hold on. You're going by the council. Okay, hold on. I kind of rescind that.
Okay.
Let me check here for a moment. I have it on the computer. That's CIP. Please be patient.
No problem at all.
Loading. Okay, yeah. I moved the council's number of $1,775,575.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second. Thank you. And we are able to, we can adapt the town manager's number, the council's number, or on something in between or less, but we can't go over. We have Mr. Berry's in the house. If you would like to speak on anything on this budget, 1064.
Sure. So the guidance that we received from the town manager was to prepare a level service budget, which this budget reflects that directive. The budget that the department put together was developed on the belief that recreation programs should be available to all residents, not just those that can afford to pay for them. The budget we proposed was a step towards that equality. Included in the 1064 budget to the manager was funding to introduce a mobile recreation program to bring opportunities to those that are underserved, to cover part-time staff expenses to offer free after-school drop-in programming at the community center, and money for financial awards for those families that can't afford our programs. These expenses had previously been budgeted in 3240, which is a special revenue fund, and we'll be talking about that in a little bit. The 1064 budget is comprised mostly of full-time staff, including programmers, office support staff, division supervisors, park staff, and the director. Also included in the budget is part-time staff, including senior center building monitors and seasonal park staff. The proposed increase in the budget reflects changes in both personnel and operating expenses. Impacts on the proposed budget resulted in changes were driven by collective bargaining agreement. Most of our staff are in the union. The Connecticut minimum wage impacts our summer seasonal help and overtime costs for the day of and the day after cleanup of the Sailfest fireworks at Fort Griswold. And finally, the purchasing of a new leaf blower. The current leaf blower that we have is 25 years old. Replacement parts are no longer available, And last year, just to keep it working, we had to manufacture our own part. Thankfully, we've got staff clever enough to manufacture that part, but we're at a point now where we can't even get parts to replace it. So those are what significantly drove the increase to our budget. And I'm happy to answer any detailed questions to the best of my ability.
All right, thank you. Do we have any questions? I have a couple. Representative Chacombe. Unmute. Great, thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Barry, for being here with us. I know you said something, mentioned something along with SailFest. How is that going to work this year? I believe it was canceled.
You're correct, it was. And when the council made the adjustment to our proposed budget, they included funding for the after-school drop-in program, and the money that we had budgeted for the day of and day after the overtime, they were going to apply that towards the drop-in programming at the community center.
Okay, so that answers all my questions. Thank you.
Representative Bailey, do you have a question or?
Yeah, well, so I guess the only question I have so far that I could think of is so the difference between the manager's number and what the town council raised it for was for that program, the one that you mentioned.
Well, it was actually two different things. So as I mentioned, we had asked for three things, and during the discussion with the council, they felt that providing covering the part-time staff expenses was something that they felt comfortable doing. The other thing that they supported was financial awards for families that can't afford our programs. So that amount was $40,000. They added another
4,300.
Yeah, they added 4,300 total, or 44,300 total. 4,300 was for drop-in programming on top of what they were going to transfer over from the overtime in the Parks Division for the SailFest.
Okay.
So the total increase was $44,300. 40,000 of that was for, like I said, to cover financial awards to families that can't afford our programs.
Thank you.
All right, great, thank you. Mr. Barr, I have two questions. Can you talk a little bit about the mobile? When you mentioned mobile, just what does that mean? Are you taking programs out into the community? Is that, tell me.
Yes, that was our vision, was we were going to utilize one of the vans at the senior center to kind of load that up with different yard games and things like that, and go out into those parts of the community where, you know, transportation to the senior center is something that is not easily achieved. And we were going to target particular areas. We had looked at and reached out to the library, to Dennis and Pequot, and also to Project Oceanology. And they had all indicated that they would be willing to partner with us to do this. So in other words, it wouldn't just be, you know, kickball. There'd be an educational element to some of the programming that was not funded in this 1064 budget, and so we likely will not be moving that forward at this time. We're going to work on the financial awards and also the free drop-in after-school programming, and that's something that we're partnering with the library. We actually started this program just before COVID hit, because the library had been dealing with a situation where a lot of students would go to the library after school, and they really weren't equipped. I mean, they did a terrific job with the resources that they have, but they were just overwhelmed with students coming to utilize the library. So we started to partner with them, and library staff were actually coming over and working with recreation staff to have after-school programming in the gym. And so that's how it got started. And then unfortunately the pandemic hit and everything was canceled.
I know I went to one of those, I think when the day you opened it, when the community policing center opened, I went to.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
It was terrific. I mean, great move. And I had I didn't really understand how many kids are really at risk and are sort of hanging around the library and being able to do it. It's fantastic. So.
And the other part of that is we reached out to Ernie Koshmeter from the Board of Ed. He's, well, I don't know his title, but he's in charge of food services. And he wrote to the state, and we got a grant to be able to provide food for all students. I think it's grades K through 12, kind of a healthy dinner brown bag program. And once we get up and running, I'm sure that we will be doing that again.
Cool, very good. The second question I have is, I wondered why the leaf blower is in this budget and not like in a CIP when they did all the other vehicles and things in town. Why is it here and not there?
Sure. So CIPs generally, if a project or a piece of equipment is over 25,000,
okay, then
it qualifies as a CIP. So this the leaf blower that we're looking at, and it's a large size one because we have a couple of large parks where it's just not practical to use kind of a small walk behind, backpack leaf blower just due to the volume, the size. So that's why it's in the operating budget, because it's less than $25,000.
Okay, perfect. All right, perfect. I have a question. I don't know who your mom Gay is. Will you unmute? I don't know who this is. I know you saw your hand raised if you have a question, but I don't know who you are. Okay, all right. Let's move forward with a vote. I think I've got everything covered on this one. Let's move forward with a vote on Parks and Rec account number 1064 for $1,775,575. Everyone in favor, please say yes or raise your hand.
Yes.
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 Yes. All right. No. Abstain. All right. Fantastic. All right. 3. That passes unanimously. Okay. All right. Next one is number 3240 on page, number 3240 on page 164. This will be the Rec and Senior Activities, 3240. Representative Jacome, can you move that number forward, please?
Hopefully I have the right number here. I'd like to move the number $1,251,702.
3 or 2? What was the number? Just give me your number again.
$1,251,702.
$2. Okay, fantastic. Do I have a second?
You will in a moment, as soon as I can. Excuse me. Let's see. Could you give me the function number again?
It is page 164, and it's 3240.
Did council go over this already?
Yes, they did.
They did? Okay.
Yep.
I was looking at the budget spreadsheet. Let's see, you said it's on 164?
Yeah, the number's on 165. It starts on page 164.
All right. Hold on. It's been a slow day for me. Really slow. no coffee, you know, and a few other things. Let's see. Okay. And the council went over it, so let's see, that's 3240. So yeah, the only question I've got.
I need a second just to.
Oh, okay.
Then we can
All right.
proceed.
Well, might as well get this second there.
Second. Great. Thank you. Okay.
Sorry.
We're good. You can go with the question.
Yeah. Yes. The question I've got is I've only received whatchamacallit, an update a few days ago of the budget spreadsheet with the town functions and what was covered on CIPs, and
okay.
I didn't have anything under this here that I might be still trying to look for it, you know.
Right.
But it's so it's number 3240, is that correct? Yeah,
that is correct.
Okay, and it's for 1,251,702, right?
That is correct. Yep.
Okay. All right. Hey, thank you.
All right. Mr. Berry, did you want to speak on this, or is there somebody else?
Sure.
Or whoever you want that's going to speak on it.
Okay. So this is a 3240 is a special revenue fund, and it's oops, sorry, Siri has decided to jump in. So expenses for this fund are paid through program fees, and it has no impact on the general fund. Expenses covered in this fund include instructor fees, some seasonal and part-time staff, program materials and supplies, and other associated costs with running programs. The proposed budget is lower than it was in 2021. The decrease reflects changes in both personnel and operating expenses. Changes in the proposed budget include a reduction in the number of seasonal personnel due to adjustments in summer staff schedules, combining 2 part-time positions into 1 regular part-time position. And also we're anticipating a gradual return of pre-COVID program numbers. So we reduce the amount in professional and technical services, including trips. So we're not expecting to bounce back, you know, July 1 of this year to kind of pre-COVID program levels. So we've made adjustments in this, anticipating that there's going to be less people signing up for programs. We manage this budget to our expenses, or to our revenue rather. So in other words, if we don't have the revenue, we won't run the program. So if we have a minimum requirement of 8 people to run a program and we only have 6 signed up, we, in most instances, would not run that program. So we don't have the expenses unless we've met all of our, we won't run the program unless we've met all of our expense requirements.
Okay. I just want to ask a general question, because I don't, just as I'm trying to learn how the budget works and on these revenue programs. So is it my understanding that the town has to put forward, or Parks and Rec has to put forward what they estimate is going to be the revenue for this program, is sort of as a budget number? Like some programs have a budget number that they're going to spend $1 million. Other programs might earn 1 million, but the town, you still put forward a number that's your estimate of what the revenue might be. So it kind of it looks like we're spending it, but we're not really. You just have to estimate.
Right. Yes, we have to put forward a number that both the council and the RTM can approve. Now that the number that we put forward is generally kind of a best case scenario. Okay. But if, like I said, if we aren't covering our expenses, then we will, in most cases, not run a particular program. But yes, we do have to have a number that gets approved as part of the budget process.
And out of that, you then plan what your staff might be and what you might need for programs, and then you sort of hope
exactly.
that it all comes in and you get that revenue. And then
right, and that's where that both the expense and the revenue come from. You know, we look at what we've done in the past. As we're developing the budget, you know, we're looking at those factors that influence the, you know, that influence our expenses. For example, you know, the Connecticut part-time wages. The state of Connecticut is committed to increasing part-time wages until we get to, I think it's $15 an hour. I think we've got another 3 years. So those kinds of things we calculate in when we're developing our budget, because we know we have, you know, 40 summer seasonal staff, and all of them are going to get $1 more this year than they got, at least $1 more. It could be a greater increase if they've moved up in responsibility or in charge of a larger group or whatever. But those are the kinds of things that we build in when we're developing our budget.
Got it. Okay, terrific. Great, thank you very much. Do we have any other questions?
I see Jerry's got his hand up, so I think I'm guessing that he wants to say something.
Okay, Jerry, just unmute if you want to. Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to kind of circle back to Director Barry's initial comments at the beginning of his presentation. You know, he talked about you know, some of the things that we put into 1064. We talked about the drop-in programming and the financial assistance and things like that. The special revenue fund, as he said, is funded through user fees, not from taxes. And that is generally a good thing. Certainly for taxpayers, it's a good thing, but it's potentially a bad thing in terms of equity. People who can't afford to pay, then we have fewer options for them. And also the COVID situation was extremely bad for the special revenue fund, in the sense that you know, that we don't have any revenue coming in, and therefore we had a really bad year. We had summer camp last summer that we spent a lot of money on because of the requirements to meet state requirements and things like that. And the fund balance that we had developed over a long time was really decimated. So, you know, I think at the end of this fiscal year, our fund balance in the special revenue fund is kind of gone. And, you know, as we're talking about equity, we were kind of funding those things for equity out of our fund balance. The things like mobile recreation, financial assistance, drop-in programming. We were planning to do that from fund balance until, you know, and you know, to get those programs off the ground. But the situation now is that fortunately the council and the RTM committee here earlier tonight approved tax money to kind of fund those things, because the special revenue fund, that's a limit. You know, if we're dependent on fees, we can't always provide the necessary programs. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody was kind of aware that the action you took here tonight was a big step forward in equity by funding those things that this special revenue fund is no longer in a position to fund. So just making sure that the committee members are aware of that, and you know, the potential, you know, there are benefits to a special revenue fund, but there are also potential consequences if we rely too heavily on that. And I think that was shown quite clearly as a result of the COVID situation and, you know, where we are today. So thank you for that.
Great, thank you very much, Mr. Luckin. Representative Chacombe.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I'm just interested. I know, saying with the special revenue fund and all that, I'm interested to see, are there any possible grants that Parks and Rec have been able to apply to, or any possibilities of getting into more of those grants to kind of get more money into that? Obviously, these are very important programs.
Yeah, I mean, we're always looking for grant money to support what we're doing. You know, the grants nowadays are pretty competitive. I'm not sure that there's the money that used to be as large a bundle of money that there used to be. And, but we do, you try whenever we can to take advantage of any grants or other funding sources that may be available that assist us in running our programs.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have any more questions? Nope. All right. So let's move forward on voting.
Just ask a question.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Sorry, I came a little late, so I was just kind of trying to figure out what Jerry had said. So in 1064, basically, it used to be funded by a special fund, and now it's the general fund. Is that what you were saying?
You want to take that, Mark, or do you want me to answer that?
Well, there's a couple of programs that used to be in 3240 that we presented to the town manager, and during our deliberations with the council, they felt or they supported the idea that a couple of those expenses, programs, services that had previously been in 3240 would make sense to move them into 1064 and be funded through tax dollars. And those two programs are the after-school programming, which I think totaled $7,800. And that's free after-school programming to students. We're partnering with the library to offer that. And also with the Board of Ed, we're going to make meals, dinners, brown bag dinners available at the community center once, well, probably starting again this fall. The other program that they felt should be supported by tax dollars is $40,000 in financial awards to those families that can't afford our programs. We feel strongly that all families ought to have accessibility to our programs, and not just those families that can afford to pay for it. And like I said, we used to pay for that out of the special revenue fund. But as a matter of equity, I think the council felt that this is two particular programs that should be supported by the entire community and not just by those that can afford to pay for it.
Thank you for that explanation. Sorry to take up time in your meeting. I was a little confused by the.
Yep,
but that
no
makes
problem.
sense. Thank you.
Thank you, Moderator Eben. Good question. All right, if we have no more questions, we will move to a vote on wrexing and senior activities special revenue fund 3240 for $1,251,702. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Abstaining? All right, that passes unanimously. Mark all this down. All right. The next fund is the Shinnecock Golf Course 2110, and that is on page 159. 159 here.
What's the function number?
This is 2010.
Okay.
And page 159.
All right.
Or the numbers are 160. Representative Bailey, when you find that, if you can move that, that'd be great.
Yep.
If you find it.
What is the function number again?
2010.
2010.
Thank you very much. I move the council's number of 1,300,016. Correction. $1,316,152. Thank you.
Moved by Bailey.
Second.
Seconded by Jacome. Thank you very much. Is this going to be Todd? Who will put this forward? Do you have a presentation, Mr. Berry?
Yes, I think I'll be doing that.
Okay.
Todd and Eric are here just in case I mess up.
Okay. All right.
So account 2010 is also a special revenue fund. The operating and personnel expenses associated with running the golf course are all paid for through season pass holders and greens fees. This past year, the golf course provided a safe outdoor recreational activity that attracted many new and returning players. Pass membership increased by 45%. Revenue from rounds increased by $117,000. And based on survey results, golfers playing at Shenecosset annually bring in approximately $400,000 to the local economy through meals, lodging, and gas. The proposed FYE 22 budget allows us to continue to provide the same level of quality golf experience. Personnel services decreased due to a reduction in post-employee benefits and hiring a new mechanic, starting at an entry level. There was an increase in seasonal personnel, which again was a result of the Connecticut minimum wage plan. Operating expenses increased primarily due to fees associated with the field management system and the purchase of a reel and bed knife grinding machine and a cart lift. The grinding machine sharpens the specialty blades on golf course mowers. It's over 25 years old and parts were no longer available. The cart lift allows the mechanic to work at a safe, appropriate height versus trying to work on equipment on the floor.
Do you have any, oh, sorry, I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say I'm happy to answer any specific questions.
Questions from the committee? No? Oh. Rep. Jacome?
Yeah, I just want, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to confirm from the council's number that was adjusted or that was included was the 27,996 on line number 5280 for the insurance risk management.
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah, at the time that the budget was presented to the council, presented to the town manager, and then when it went to print, we did not have that risk insurance number. So they had to make that adjustment after the budget book had been printed. So that's why that adjustment. And all of those, like I said, all of those expenses, the OPEB, insurance, and all of those things are paid for by revenue generated from the golf course. Okay,
and I believe as well that the prices did increase for the memberships. Is that correct as well?
That is correct. Some of the membership fees went up. They went up for, let's see. They went up for adults. They went up for, what were the other two?
The associate and the associate plus.
Oh, thank you, Todd. Yes, the associate and associate plus. They went up 3%, and the rest of the fees remained the same.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Jacome. Mr. Berry, I have a couple numbers. Do you anticipate our revenue to go down? I mean, it seemed like we benefited a lot from COVID with a lot of people coming here. Do you think we now have a lot of new fans, or do you think it might go down over the next year? Do you have any kind of sense of that?
Well, I can tell you what has happened since January of this year. And this was as of a week ago. Mr. Goodhue reported that we had 60 new members on top of all of the other members that we added last year. So we're looking at having close to 300 season pass holders. It's difficult to say you know, how long that is going to continue. You know, golf provided a safe sporting activity for a lot of people. We are seeing a lot of the associate and the associate plus group signing up. And those, what we did a couple of years ago is we created a couple of new membership levels, discounted those, and they were tied to a person's age. So an associate now I think is between 22 and 30 and 30, and an associate plus is 31 to 35. So we're doing a lot to introduce younger players to the golf course. And our expectation and plan is that those golfers will continue to be season pass holders at Shinnecock.
Do you have, you say you have 300 season pass holders. Is there an ideal number you would like to get to? Is a sort of target that you say, hey, we would be, that's where we'd love to be. We'd love to be at 400 or something. Is there a number that you have?
Yeah, you know, that's an excellent question, and one that was actually brought up at the last Golf Advisory Board meeting. There is definitely a balance. You know, you don't, if you have too many seasons pass holders, there's advantages to being a seasons pass holder. You can book your tee times a little bit earlier than somebody, you know, coming off the street. So if somebody coming off the street tries to book a time, but constantly runs into the situation where it's, you know, completely booked with season pass holders, then that's going to impact your off the street play. And so there's a balance there. And I think that's going to be an ongoing discussion with the Golf Advisory Board. So we don't have a specific number at this time, but it's something that we're monitoring and, you know, have to be sensitive to both the folks coming off the street and into our season pass holders.
Great, fantastic. And thank you for having such a great facility. I think it was Todd was filling me in earlier about the, you know, the history of it, of the golf course a little bit. And it's great that we have that this here in Groton. It really gives it's a real asset to the community. So
yeah, well, we've got a great staff up there, and Eric does a masterful job of keeping the course in the condition that it is in with the limited budget that we give him, and he does an excellent job.
Fantastic. Do we have any additional questions?
Yes, I do.
Mr. Bailey, Representative Bailey.
Thank you. The slide on the TV station about like what you call it, Canadian geese at Baker Cove and stuff like that. Does the grass of the golf course attract geese a bit? Or?
Yeah, I think the grass on the golf course is like a smorgasbord. You know, they just it's green and lush, and there's acres and acres of it. And we do use a humane way of keeping the geese. There's a number of different, some of them I guess would call gimmicks out there, but we have a border collie that Eric is responsible for managing, and the border collie chases the geese off and gets his exercise, and the geese, you know, their time on the golf course is limited.
I was just wondering, that's all.
Yeah.
We get it over here. There's a grassy area up front in the base, and geese come up on the sub base over there in the front part. What I mean.
Yeah, I think the greener the grass, the more attractive it is for the geese, for sure.
Yeah, I used to do PRTs out there, and they'd sometimes get us over there, and we'd look for a place where there ain't no poo.
Yeah, it can be a challenge in some places. Yeah.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. Moderator Eben.
Thank you. I just had a question, and maybe I missed it. I'm sorry. I know that Representative Wells, who's on the Golf Advisory Committee, has talked about the fact that there's a effort to get the golf course on the National Historic Register, I believe. Is that correct?
That is correct. That subject was brought up, well, it's been brought up a couple of times, about 2 years ago, and it was brought up again at the last Golf Advisory Board meeting, and no decision was made, and that will be an ongoing discussion.
Okay, I was just curious if there were, if that had been submitted and if there were any kind of financial implications of that. You know, I know when houses go and become part of the, you know, historic districts, sometimes there are requirements on how they can be maintained or restored, or, you know, amenities that can be added. So I just was curious about that.
Yeah, it's actually the course itself that would be going for designation and not the building. So, and yes, there are financial implications in, it's a complex application process, generally requires hiring a consultant. Estimated costs for that are about $20,000 to pay the consultant to do that. And there is state funding available to pay for part of that. And that's been part of the discussion with the Golf Advisory Board is, you know, is there, what value is it to the golf course to be on the National Historic Register? Is that going to attract more golfers, or would that $10,000 to $20,000 be better spent on improving the course, some of the physical characteristics of the course?
Thank you.
If we're good, let's move to a vote. This will be on account number 2010, Shinnecock Golf Course, in the number of $1,316,152. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain? Passes unanimously. Thank you very much. All right, we move to we have two CIPs. The first one is on page 222 in the big book. And this is Capital Improvements Program, Facilities Improvement for Parks and Rec. It's CIP 4A. Representative Jacome, can you move that for us?
Of course. I move number 275,000 for CIP 4A.
I have a different number.
Wait,
I think it's 305.
oh, correction.
Yep.
I struck that from the record. Sorry about that. All right, I move the number 305,000 for CIP 4A.
A second.
Second. Thank you, Representative Bailey.
I got a question.
Yeah. Mr. Berry, do you want to talk a little bit about this?
Sure. So the 305 is broken up into three different projects. The first of them is the construction of an energy efficient bathroom to replace the portalet that currently serves the community. Construction of the bathroom will help address the equity disparity in what is essentially the town's community park. For the last, I want to say at least 19 years, there's been a portalet that has served Sutton Park. You know, within Sutton Park, there's two pavilions that are rented on a regular basis through the department. There's a playground, skate park, and basketball courts, all in that front portion of the playground. You know, we recently, or we completed a recreational needs assessment back, oh goodness, I don't know, 6 months ago now, and 66, and this is a statistically valid survey that was done. So 66% of the community responded that it was important or very important that the department should focus on enhancing or renovating existing facilities. And 82% of residents responded that community parks were very important to their household. The idea of a bathroom is not something new. In 2009, there was a Sutton Park master plan completed, and it showed putting a bathroom kind of in the same general area that we're proposing. Previously to 19 years ago, there was a bathroom. It was towards the back of the park, and unfortunately, it was regularly vandalized, and to the point where it just didn't make sense to keep it open anymore. So one of the things, like I said, was we're proposing to pull that forward closer to the road so that it will not be as likely a target for vandalism just due to its proximity, and there would be lighting and other safety measures taken to try to protect it from being vandalized.
Okay.
So, and you know, this is not a $275,000 is a lot of money, but it is nothing elaborate. I'll read you a section of an email from Greg Hanover. It will have stainless steel bathroom fixtures, essentially prison fixtures, an epoxy floor, steep pitch roof, vandal-resistant lighting, and will meet ADA accessibility requirements. So it's not anything elaborate. It's going to be bare bones, but it will better serve the community. And I think it's a step towards what the residents that completed the survey have indicated that they want.
Is it similar to what you have at Pequannock Park in sort of, you know, urinal and a stall and a sink? Is it that, or is it?
Yes, that's exactly. There would be a male side and a female side, and it would be like that. Be like yes. That. Okay. Yep. You know, probably concrete block structure. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's going to be, you know, studded 2x4s or anything like that. It would be a concrete. So nothing elaborate, but, you know, unfortunately, you know, things cost more nowadays than we think they should, but we feel that this is something, and this is not the first time that we've asked for this. This has been kind of kicked down the road a few different times.
Perfect.
So that's the first part. There's also $15,000 to construct a fence around the perimeter of the playground at Pequannock Plains. It was brought to our attention by a group of families that have children with special needs. That is a fully accessible playground. And one of the things that the parents pointed out is when you have more than one child, or if you have a child, well, children in general, they like to run. And if you've got two kids and one's running one way and one's running the other way, and there's no fence to keep them, it's a difficult situation for parents. So these families proposed to us that we put a fence around there. They indicated that they were willing to help fundraise. So this would be funded through fundraising, but we still have to include it in the CIP because the town will be paying for the fence, even though the money will be coming from, the town will be cutting the check, but the money will be coming from fundraising efforts. The third part of that overall project is $15,000 to install wall padding at the community center gym. So the community center gym, it was originally built as a middle school. The The spacing between the edge of the court and the wall is minimal. There's probably maybe 3 feet. And it's not only being used by kids, it's being used by adults for different programs. And right now there's only padding at either end of the court. And we want to put additional padding on to further protect those that are playing in using the gym. So those are the 3 programs, or 3 projects.
Representative Jacome, you have a question?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, the fence I find very interesting because, you know, my nephew is a runner, and I think it's definitely important to keep the kids safe. As for the bathroom, do you know, are they closed between certain hours, or when the park's closed? I'm interested if there's any anti-vandalism or, you know, to protect against that.
Yeah, I would see this as probably a system that doors would have a timer on them, and they would lock at a certain time and then reopen in the morning. We would be looking at those kinds of safety measures as this is being constructed.
Awesome, thank you.
Mr. Barry, I have a couple of questions, and then we have a question that came in from Representative Fortner. So my first question is, do you think there'll be an effect? That's there. Sutton Park is the beginning of that new trail that's going to run all the way around.
Yes.
The bike trail. I don't know what the right terminology for that was. Do you think with that added traffic, is the bathroom going to be large enough to handle sort of anticipated extra people? That would probably be the bathroom for those people also, for the bike road.
Right. Yeah. I certainly hope so. You know, I think if we look at scaling back, you know, the size of the bathroom, I think it could present some challenges. Certainly a single portalette has not served the community well. And I'm actually surprised that, you know, we haven't been taken to task for not having a more suitable bathroom. And this is our one community park. We have a ton of neighborhood parks. Quantic Plains Park is not really a community park. It's an athletic complex with a playground adjoining it. Sutton Park is our community park. And to me, the idea that we've had a portalette there for the last 19 plus years serving the community is just, it's quite surprising to me. And yes, I think to answer your question, I do expect that once the trail or once the bike path comes off of the current Route 1 bike path, goes through Sutton Park and connects over to Midway Oval and Lily Lane, and we've created this giant loop, I would fully expect that there would be more people utilizing that park.
Okay, all right. We have a question, Representative Fortner. If you unmute, you may ask your question.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much. Sorry to barge in on your committee
no problem.
meeting. Hi, Mr. Barry. How are you?
I am well. How are you?
Great. Thank you. So, I've been chatting about this bathroom a lot with Greg Hanover from Public Works, and he referred my question to Mr. Barry, who is obviously the most knowledgeable person about all the parks and places that we want to recreate in this town. I was initially very concerned about the cost. I had no idea that one small bathroom could be that expensive, and it kind of blows my mind. So that's where I'm coming from. Obviously, I think it's important to have a bathroom. We have one at Quantic Plains. We don't want people crossing the street. I have been to Sutton Park a number of times. I certainly support having a bathroom there. I don't understand why it needs to be so expensive. So I was at Niantic the other day. They have 2 beautiful bathrooms, one at the hole in the wall where you get onto the boardwalk, which is heavily traveled, and then another one down at the McCook Beach. These are very large, attractive buildings. I was extremely surprised to walk into the bathroom, and it was a little tiny bathroom. So male, female, separate bathrooms, this huge building, and the actual bathrooms were 2 stall. 2 sinks, and the rest of the area was, I guess there's mechanicals there and things which obviously have to take place. But I realized why that's a huge building, a lot of space taken up, a lot of expense. And why do we need that when we're really going into many places, airports and other public places, to one bathroom, a unisex bathroom that either a family can use, a female or a male could use, depending. And I didn't see it as being an enormously heavily traveled place. We're not having like concerts there and things like that, are we? On a regular basis. I mean, it's a lot of people playing basketball and doing skateboards and having picnics and all that fun stuff. And there's also, if you were on a bike, you might go to the bathroom right across the street. So Mr. Barry very quickly, thank you so much, got right back to me about the bathroom, and that would save about $90,000. I think it would be a dramatic improvement to the portalette, but and yet keep it. I'm also very concerned about the vandalism. It happened before. I hope it doesn't happen again. I am concerned, and the more money we invest in it, the harder it's going to be just in case something were to happen. So anyways, that was my 2 cents. The other thing, I was very surprised to hear that this Sutton Park was our only community park. That may be true. However, I think it's kind of semantics, because I think very much of Pequannock Plains Park as being a community park, whether that's the actual name for it or not. But just wanted to put my 2 cents in. Thank you so much for listening, guys.
Thank you, Representative Fortner.
Just to follow up on what Representative Fortner was saying, part of the expense of building this goes to the location of where we're going to put it. So because we are proposing to move it closer to Route 1, I did talk with Mr. Hanover, the Director of Public Works, and I think he said it was about 305 feet to connect to the town sewer. So there is an increased expense due to the proximity of relocating the bathroom up front. So, that's part of the total cost of this. He did not think that we would get approval to put the bathroom in the same place that the previous bathroom was. And that certainly is not our intention, because I think that meets the definition of insanity, doing the same thing and expecting a different outcome. And so I feel that moving it closer to the road is going to decrease vandalism. And we also have some bigger plans for Sutton Park. Right now, there's trees and shrubs that kind of screen the park from Route 1, and we're looking at thinning that out and potentially even removing those trees so that it's much more visible from the road. And I think moving it closer to the road and making it more visible by reducing some of the screening is 2 things that are going to help reduce the chances of vandalism.
Terrific. I have one question on the fence around the playground. I walk, and then Representative Bale, I'll come right to you in a second here. I walk around that track all the time at Pequannock Park, and that's a half-mile track. Is the track part that goes around the outside of the playground going to be affected by the fence, or is the fence inside of that track, or where?
Yes, the fence would be inside the track. So we're not going to make you hop a fence if you're walking around or opening a gate. Yes, we met with the fence company, and that the quote we got was for outside of the playground, but inside of the walking path.
Perfect. I just didn't know if you were sort of blocking that off, but you're
yeah, not. no.
Okay. Fantastic. All right. Representative Bailey, you have a question?
Yes, I do. For the fiscal year 23, the the number of 1140 was that for?
Yeah, that's described for FYE 23. We have disinvested in Sutton Park for the last 20 years. We have not spent any money in there on anything. And if you go there, it clearly shows, the parking lot is falling apart. The playground is 20 some odd years old. And there's work that needs to be done in the skate park itself. The pavilion needs to be re-roofed. There are a number of things that need to be done to that park. At the town manager's recommendation, while he fully supports the entire project, the direction that we were given this year was to only include essential projects. And so I feel that having a bathroom at this park is essential. And I think it's reflected in the responses from the needs survey. So we pulled that out. The rest of those things, we will be back next year asking for money to continue to reinvest in this park.
Okay, and that would be 11,400.
No, that would be 1,145,000.
That's a lot, yeah.
It is, yep, no doubt. But if you look at the last 20 years, we haven't spent any money in there. So, this is what happens when you continue to defer work. It doesn't get any less expensive, unfortunately. But I fully realize that we're not the only game in town, that there's other departments that have other needs, and trying to balance all of that is a difficult situation.
So the 305 should pretty much cover what's as far as the write-up on the CIP.
Yes, the 305 would cover the bathroom, the $15,000 for the fence around the playground. Again, the town's writing the check, but the funds are not coming from the town. The funds are coming from fundraising and the $15,000 for the wall padding in the community center. Those three things combined come to 305.
Hey, thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Let's move to a vote. This is going to be on CIP. Let's see, no more. Yep, CIP 4A in the amount of $305,000. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Abstain? None. Fantastic. All right. On to our last item. This is going to be CIP 4H, Athletic Fields Design Services. It's on page 223 in the book. Representative Bailey, can you move that number?
Yes, I move $200,000 for CIP.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second. Representative Jacome, thank you very much. Mr. Berry, do you want to talk about this? Looks like for design services for the new athletic fields.
Yes. There was an athletic fields task force was created by the council to look at and come up with solutions to address what has been a long identified need in the community, and that is for more athletic fields. The athletic field task force, Mr. Locken served as the department representative. There was members from the high school and some adult program organizations along with youth organizations. They have been meeting on a regular basis over the last, I think, at least 12 months to try to define exactly what the shortages were in field space and what it would take to address those shortages. Like I said, the shortages have existed and been documented for a number of years. None of the different organizations get the field. We can't meet their requests on a regular basis. Everybody has to, give up time and whatnot. So we've identified what we need, and the design services are to take the conceptual designs, which have been presented both to the council and to the RTM. These are the services to take the conceptual designs to a more definitive design. We've located where the fields would be, but we haven't accounted for how many parking spaces and all of the other things that are associated with athletic fields. And this would address both field shortages for the high school and for the community. Right now, there's a lot of sharing of space. A lot of high school teams practice and play at Pequannock Plains, or they're using one of the fields over at the community center. So we have determined that for architectural services, more finalized conceptual design development, cost estimates for these fields, that cost is going to be $200,000.
Okay. Representative Jacome, your hand is up.
Thank you. So Mr. Barry, you said you've identified, you've already picked a number. What is how many locations have you identified?
Well, I think primarily we've been looking at adding additional fields at the high school. So one of the challenges right now is a lot of the high school teams have to leave campus in order to practice or play. And that creates a number of different challenges. If you're trying to stay after school to get a little bit of help, it's not as easy as running down the hill to get to practice. Now you've got to ride over to Pequannock Plains or to the community center to make your practice. So it creates some challenges for the athletes and for the coaches. So primarily they've been looking at adding additional fields at the high school, and also been looking at adding fields where Clodchester School is. From an operations perspective, it would make sense to have fields centrally located versus having fields at Pequannock Plains and then having fields all the way across town. If all the fields are located in one place, you lose a tremendous amount of windshield time, time spent in the truck, riding your equipment all the way over to maintain a single field. So they've been looking at Clodchester, which is coming offline, I believe this summer or next fall, and locating fields in that area, which would be adjacent to Pequannock Plains Park.
Okay, so it's safe to say that it's definitely a handful of them.
It is more than one, yes.
Okay.
Mr. Locken might be, I don't remember how many, well, part of the decision on how many fields will be the type of field. And when I say the type of field, will it be a synthetic turf field or will it be a natural grass? Now, if the decision is made that the town is not going to go forward with synthetic turf fields, that's going to increase the amount of natural turf fields that the town is going to need, because synthetic turf fields can withstand a greater amount of use. And if we don't have those, then that use needs to get spread out over additional fields.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I agree to that point. It's be better to be centralized at the individual school location, so there's less traveling. You know, they're the ones that need it the most. So they should be centralized there. And it's a good point to keep intact, whether it's going to be a synthetic or natural. So, thank you.
Yeah, and that decision hasn't been made yet.
Are you, Representative Jacome, okay?
All set. Thank you, Mr.
All
Chair.
set. All right, thank you very much. Representative Bailey?
Hey, thank you very much. So is there a designer, or a developer, architect guy indicated yet, or do you got to go through like a bid process?
Yes, we would go through a bid process for all of these services.
Okay, and I guess you'd figure that it may not be just, it wouldn't be anything that would be probably much, that this is overlapping just in case, and then the rest just gets refunded back, right?
Yeah, I think that's the case in any capital project is, you know, if there are savings that occur for whatever particular reason during, you know, while the project is being worked through, yeah, that money ends up going back and then can get reallocated for some other project.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Berry.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey. I have a couple questions. Representative Jacome kind of mentioned, I'm just going to piggyback on that and what you just said. There is a discussion or a debate going on in town of grass fields and synthetic fields. And my understanding is you'll probably end up designing both at the same time in case, depending on where we go, or if we end up splitting some synthetic, some natural fields. Is that, you're going to take all of those designs into account at the same time?
You know, if Mr. Locken is still there, like I said, he's been serving on the Athletic Fields Task Force, and I think he might be able to better answer that question.
Okay.
Yeah, so the Athletic Fields Task Force is still meeting. When the task force went to the town council and the RTM several months ago, we kind of had presented the findings of our first year of meeting and developing the need and determining, you know, what we needed. From there, the questions were asked about artificial surfaces and, you know, potential funding and, you know, all those kinds of questions. So the town council actually, you know, authorized the Athletic Fields Task Force to continue to meet. So right now, the task force on their agenda is to kind of make a deep dive into advantages, potential drawbacks of turf fields and grass fields, and, you know, anything in between. The planning, when we come down to the planning process, what we're talking about here in this CIP project, I think the question about whether artificial surface fields are going to be included or not will already be answered. I don't believe that we would be designing, you know, essentially you'd be paying for two separate design services. So I think it would, you know, you'll just be adding to things. I think we need to solve that question, and the Athletic Fields Task Force, I think, will answer that question probably in the next several months. You know, by the time this funding actually comes around and we go out to bid and we're looking for these design services, at that time, I think we would have a pretty good understanding of what, the number of fields and which ones will be synthetic and which ones will be natural. As Mr. Berry mentioned, you know, there are 3 places that the Athletic Fields Task Force suggested the fields be located: on the Fitch High School property, at Sutton Park, which is right down below Fitch, and at Claude Chester, which is right next to Pequannock Plains. So we have a certain amount of use that the community needs, and we're trying to fit it in those parks. So as Mr. Berry also mentioned, that an artificial surface field, you know, provides more use than a natural grass field. So if the decision is made that we want to go with all natural surface fields, for example, we can't do that on those 3 properties. We'd now be looking at, you know, acquiring other properties, finding another, you know, vacant school, or, you know, whatever. We'd be looking for another place to locate additional fields, because the level of use that the community has could not be sustained in that small area with grass fields, if that makes sense. So, but the, you know, there are legitimate concerns about synthetic fields, and the task force is like I say, taking a deep dive into that and going to answer that question. So I hope I didn't get too far off topic there for you, Chairman Jones, but that was.
No, it's a great question. My follow-up question, either to you or to Mr. Berry, would be, if the town or the task force decided to go with all natural fields, is it doubling what we currently are sort of planning for this? You know, if you said
yes, it's not doubling,
a good number to say,
but for every synthetic field is worth about 1.5 natural grass. You know, 1 1/3, 1.5 grass fields. So if we take out, you know, 3 synthetic turf fields from the plan on adding, you know, 4 or 5 or, you know, natural grass fields to replace it. So that's, you know, at least 2 to 3 additional ones. So yeah, you're looking at adding, you need more space.
Okay.
To
accommodate
to meet the need. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So if we decide to go that route, that's what the implication would be.
Correct.
The amount of money that we've assigned for this CIP would cover whether we go with the existing ideas or something that's bigger.
This CIP is covering developing the fields as the Athletic Fields Task Force recommends at those 3 sites. So that's what that's the intent of this. If it went beyond that, I don't think, you know, I think we'd probably be coming back with an additional funding request to add, you know, additional sites in future years if we were going with natural surface.
Terrific. Great. Thank you, Mr. Locken. Moderator Eben.
Oh, thank you. To some extent, my question has been answered, but I'm just concerned about a task force where they're going to invest, you know, this funding in planning and kind of planning these fields and going in either one direction or the other. It sounds like they're not going to plan for both or either artificial and natural grass. They're going to plan for one or the other. And going in one direction has huge financial implications if we go with artificial. And so it makes it, it kind of puts a huge, I guess, ability to control future finances into a task force that's not really charged under the charter with controlling finances. So I'm a little concerned about the process path that's been laid out with the task force basically determining the magnitude of expenditures on these, potentially on these fields. Can you just like mention that? I mean, are there some checks and balances where the RTM will have a chance to weigh in before this planning goes forward, or are these architects just going to move forward on the advice of this task force?
Would you like me to answer that, Mr. Berry?
Yeah, go ahead, Chair.
Okay. So the task force is has no authority. The task force is you know, has no ability to make decisions. You know, we're making recommendations to the council and the RTM about what the best answer in the view of the task force is to meet the need for fields. So it's up to the council and it's up to the RTM, you know, and probably ultimately the voters to decide if they want to spend money on implementing the plan that the task force comes up with. So, you know, that's, I think, the ultimate check and balance on the Athletic Fields Task Force. In terms of the task force, though, there are, you know, a number of members that are meeting regularly to analyze what the best way to meet the town's need is. And, you know, Moderator Eben mentioned cost of synthetic turf fields. yes, it is true that a synthetic turf field costs more to build than a natural grass field. There are also ongoing maintenance, operational costs, and costs for disposing of, of turf after it's done, and for maintaining equipment that, you know, maintains the fields, all kinds of costs that go into both synthetic and natural surface fields. And the Athletic Fields Task Force is looking at that data plus data about use data, how many people can use it in a day versus how many people, you know, how long you need to rest a field. Can we build natural turf fields on the Fitch High School property where we've got state laws that determine what kind of chemicals can or can't be used on those, and can you maintain a natural grass field in an athletic quality condition using other, you know, what's available. There's a lot of questions like this, and the Athletic Fields Task Force is going to do its due diligence and go through and answer all of those questions and come up with a single recommendation. And it's either up to the council or the RTM or the voters to say, yes, we agree, or no, we don't agree. So, you know, I think there's a lot of work still to be done. These studies here are going to, you know, eventually put a cost number of what it's going to cost to actually build these fields. And, you know, it's going to tell us quite clearly, yes, they will all fit in these locations that we're talking about. It's going to tell us how much the buildings, the restrooms, the parking lots, the scoreboards, the bleachers, and, you know, other things like that are going to cost. So, you know, that's the goal of the task force, is to get a solution out there to the community that's going to meet the needs, and that's going to, in the task force's best judgment, you know, do that in the most cost-efficient manner possible.
Thank you. Is the task force, and just to understand, are they defining the scope of work for the consultant that's going to be designing the fields? Who's going to be creating that scope of work?
I'm sure that's Public Works. I mean, they would go through the same process that any other project in the CIP. And if we're hiring architects, or we're hiring surveyors or what have you for the purpose of these studies, I mean, that's something that's going to go through a regular town process. The Athletic Fields Task Force is not going to have any kind of you know, control or, you know, of any of that. That's normal town operations, and that will be controlled by, you know, town staff doing its job.
Okay, thank you. I guess I understand. Thank you.
Representative Chacon. Thank you, Moderator Eben.
Thank you. Again, I guess just for a clarifying point for me, I guess it's more important to kind of know, you know, how many fields are going to be necessary. Like I know you said, it's also going to be very dependent on whether it's chosen synthetic or natural. But I think that for me, like that big number of how many fields either the task force chooses that should have been identified by you, you know, to be surveyed, I think to know the numbers of how many fields are going to be looked at is important, because I know everybody likes to look at the numbers and what's attached to and the dollar bills. So thank you.
Yes, in answer to that question, that information is actually on our website. So if you go to grotonrec.com, there is a you know, a tab for planning and things like that. There's an Athletic Fields Task Force listing out there. So anybody who's listening to this meeting or members here at the meeting, you can go to grotonrec.com and the town's website and click on the Athletic Fields Task Force and get the information. In short, at Fitch High School, there is the plans call for in addition of, well, renovating the stadium field, adding 2 rectangles. Those rectangles are kind of multi-use fields that are for lacrosse, field hockey, soccer, you know, that type of sport. Redoing the track, the stadium field, 2 additional fields, a softball field, and I think 2 tennis courts is what's at the high school. At Sutton Park, we now have 2 ball fields, I'm sorry, at Sutton Park, and we're going to renovate those 2 ball fields to be a high school baseball and a high school softball field at Sutton Park. So that's going to, the idea with that being, it's kind of an annex to the high school. The kids who, the JV teams or whatever, when the varsity team is using the full-size facility at the high school, the other team goes down the hill and uses those facilities. So Sutton Park really becomes, at least right after school, kind of a high school annex kind of facility. And then after that, it'll be used for community use. The Claude Chester property, I believe it's 2 multi-purpose fields plus a intermediate sized baseball field. So that is what can fit on those, each of those 3 properties. So I think it's in addition of 2 total fields at the high school, in addition of 3 total fields at Claude Chester. So if you followed my math there, I suppose, we're adding a softball field and a rectangle to the high school property, and then also 2 tennis courts I mentioned, but that's the kind of small potatoes in the big scheme. Sutton Park, just the 2 fields there just get renovated. And at Claude Chester, we add 2 rectangles and an intermediate baseball field. And in terms of synthetic, I think there's talk of certainly making the stadium field at the high school synthetic, plus at least one of the other rectangles synthetic. The high school softball and baseball fields, I would think likely would be natural grass. And I think the multi-purpose rectangles at Claude Chester for community use would likely be synthetic, at least in terms of where the athletic fields task force is and what the field use was. So that's kind of where we stand right now. But as I said, the task force is continuing its work, and there may be some small changes to that.
Okay, so that's all on the website for the public as well.
It is on the website, and it's exactly the same as the information that was presented to the RTM in February. So if you can watch the RTM meeting or whatever, but it's the same information, and it's out there on the website, and yeah, hasn't changed since then.
Appreciate it, Mr. Walker.
Thank you. All right. So basically, this money is basically used to get the whole engineering process going. This is what's needed to sort of get all of this sort of figured out with all the component pieces. So it'll kind of be, understand, sort of matching in with the task force. So it gives the task force the data, the numbers, the basic plan.
I think the primary purpose of this CIP project is to tell us how much it's going to cost to build those fields that the town needs, and to verify how they're going to fit on those 3 properties. So that's what this does. It doesn't provide any money to actually build any fields. It's just to tell us how much it's going to cost and what it's going to look like when they're done.
Terrific. Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. Let's move to, if there's no more questions, looks like, all right, we'll move to a vote on CIP 4H for $200,000 for the athletic fields design services. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? There's none. That passes unanimously. All right. I think that completes our task for tonight. Mr. Berry, thank you, and thank you for your staff and everybody that came out tonight. It was excellent. Great. Thank you very much on answering questions and being here. It was great. So
thank you.
We'll
see you next Monday night.
See you next Monday night.
Right?
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Berry, all right. Thank you.
Second.
Thank you.
Second, Mr. Combe. All right. All in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Terrific. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you and good
Thank
night.
you.
Right.
Yep.
Good night.
You all have a good night.
Thanks. Good night.
Thank you.
You done?
That one's done.